Okay.
Oh, that going live? Okay. Welcome everyone to the Natural Resources, Agriculture and Open Space Subcommittee of the Environment and Transportation Committee. Today is Tuesday, February 23rd. Okay, Delegate Ruth isn't here. She asked that we talk about the snare trap bill while she's here. So I'll try to do that, but then if, let's start with House Bill 145. That's the oyster penalties bill. We've had this on the agenda before. I've talked to the sponsor a number of times, and they have not been able to work out amendments. And I think the subcommittee is a little concerned about what to do with the bill. So I want to suggest that we just vote it down today.
Move unfavorable.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, can you say the name of the title of the bill? I missed that.
Yeah, it's House Bill 145, oyster penalties.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I did talk to the sponsor, and we do want to even out the penalties, but it's not clear that, you know, this area of law is unaddressed in law. I mean, there are penalties, and so I just, and the subcommittee has come to no agreement. So we have an unfavorable and a second on the floor. All those in favor of the unfavorable, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed? There we go. Okay. But that's, and you know, oyster penalties, just on my time on the committee, have gone back and forth. Isn't that right, Jay?
I think you know that subject very well, the penalty.
Yeah, we've gone back and forth a number of times, and we do want to get it right. So there's no, we're
Well,
not-
the bill is now unfavorable. But I can tell you that this legislation was looking for a problem that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to House Bill 325. That's the Talbot Sunday hunting bill. Patrick has been talking to the sponsor and to DNR. I've talked a little bit to DNR and a little bit to the sponsor. Patrick, do you want to tell us what you've come up with? Or is there any discussion on this, the Talbot Sunday hunting bill?
Well, there is an amendment.
Yeah, there is an amendment. Okay, Patrick, go ahead and tell us what the amendment is.
Well, the amendment puts Talbot, into the counties that allow Sunday turkey hunting on each Sunday of the spring turkey season. Takes out the language about authorizing spring turkey hunting, participating in the junior hunt, which would already be included in what they added there. And it takes out the language allowing Sunday hunting on public lands.
So it takes out the public lands.
Correct.
And you've talked to the sponsor about that?
Yes.
I actually talked to the sponsor about that too. James from DNR.
Yeah, you're taking out a public land.
Yeah. It's a forest.
A public forest.
Public forest. Okay. On the amendment to take out the public lands, do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. The bill is before us. Oh, Patrick, do we need to wait for a letter, or is?
Well, we have the letter.
We have the letter.
Yeah, we only schedule hearings if we have the letter. The mistake on the Cecil County one is that part of it was statewide, part of it was local. So we scheduled it without realizing it was part local.
Okay.
I move the bill is amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Patrick, I don't want to be technical, but since it's amended, do we need another letter?
Yeah, might be a good idea.
Okay, so we've got time before the full committee.
I'll talk to the sponsor.
Okay. We'll send it forward, but if in the full committee, we probably ought to. Okay. We're going to hold snare traps because, I mean, I do want to vote on it today, but Delegate Ruth did ask
No.
that she be here for that. House Bill 755, disabled veterans licenses. I was thinking we could talk about this bill. I don't think anybody wants to vote on it today, although I could be wrong. This bill, Patrick, can you tell us what this bill will do?
Well, current law allows for complimentary hunting licenses for anybody who is 100% service disabled, lifetime complimentary angler's licenses, excuse me, for anyone who's 100% service connected disabled. And the bill knocks that down to 80%. That's all it does
Okay.
for in-states.
Anybody have discussion on this? I've got a couple of things I could just launch into, but anybody else?
So,
Question.
Yeah, Delegate Wells?
so is this basically like a discount because of mobility challenges? Is that what you would call this?
No, I think it's probably more of a benefit for veterans.
Oh, veterans. I'm so sorry. Got you. I was thinking you said mobility.
And it's the complimentary. It's 100%
Okay.
lifetime.
I mean, I guess the question I have is if there's a fiscal impact. on
It's a good
revenue.
question. There's a little bit of a discrepancy. DNR's testimony estimated around 71,000 a year. The fiscal note estimated around 10,000 a year.
These programs are run on the funds from the license fees. Is that right?
Correct, and matching federal funds.
Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would it be okay to ask James McKettrick if he has a sense as to why the wide difference in the fiscal estimate?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, from what I can tell, so I'm just looking at that right now. It's a difference in the estimate between how many folks we think are eligible. So I'm actually trying to track down where DLS got their figures from. Obviously, we're around 72,000 ballpark. And I think they're closer to 27.
I'd say 10.
Or no, these are individuals.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, these are individuals that would possibly take advantage of this. So that's where the discrepancy is. Obviously we wouldn't want to see, any revenue loss, especially this day and age, especially when we have already, this body's already established a program to provide complimentary licenses to all veterans of whether disabled or not disabled. That's
sorry, what-
the Healing Hunting and Fishing Fund. This committee passed last year from Senator Simon Ayer. And so far that fund is actually in the 6 months, a little over 6 months that it's been in place. We've gotten a good chunk of change from voluntary donations on our online Compass licensing platform. And Janet Davis over at the Chesapeake Bay Trust, who administers this money, is already moving this money out the door. So we're we definitely have our bases covered on providing opportunities to veterans groups, and whether they're 100% or 10% or 20% disabled.
Delegate Stein,
with,
is that
some of our constituents. Can you connect with the constituents of the sponsor, perhaps hook them up with that program?
Yeah, so actually it's a thank you, Patrick, for that. We've actually put the delegate in touch with the Chesapeake Bay Trust to look at ways that perhaps we could, turn this bill into a helpful clarification in that program. I have not heard back yet from the sponsor about any concepts to improve that program statute right now. But I'm happy to check in with that.
So, Mr. Chairman, maybe it's best to hold this bill?
Yeah, I think so. I want to say a couple things about it too before we hold it. Anybody else?
I've got one question.
Delegate Jacobs.
Chris,
and then Wells.
Is this bill cross-filed? I don't see on my list where it is.
No.
No? Okay.
Delegate Wells.
I have a question for DNR. So, because you raised a good point in terms of, and I understand you're being, I think neutral, but at least raised that there is the budgetary impact right now. So I'm just kind of curious, like the indirect impact perhaps on other funds this could have, such as program open space funds, that I know is really important to DNR. I don't want to see any funds get used because I know there's a lot of, I don't want to say that this is not an important endeavor, but I think there's a lot of other programs that could really use DNR support that some of these funds could go towards.
Well, if this doesn't sound too facetious, a lot of that money that we would be losing goes towards, a lot of high priority items, including oyster restoration work, and just general programming, making sure that we're managing our recreational fisheries appropriately.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would also add too, there's sort of this risk, with sort of this sliding scale, right? 80% is pretty arbitrary. And I think, it kind of begs the question, well, what's wrong with 60? What's wrong with 50? And then we start, we see another zero added to the fiscal note. Next year or whenever.
All right. And I just want to point out, I looked back a little bit. There was a House bill in 2017, which would have, sort of included complementary licenses for a much wider group of veterans. And we've had bills about Purple Hearts. And, James, I'd forgotten about, I saw the Healing Hunting and Fishing Fund in your testimony, but I'd forgotten that was legislation. And that was partly our answer to all these piecemeal bills was to do something like that. And so your report is that fund is working.
Yeah, I was really shocked to see they were, just on the fact that this is a voluntary donation, they were able to bring in, I think at this rate we're projected to bring in close to 100. I'm sorry, maybe I'm adding a zero myself, but when we're talking about, relatively cheap hunting and fishing licenses, we're bringing in good money.
Okay, well, we are going to hold this, but there's a lot of background to that. And okay, it takes us to House Bill 800. This is a bill. Patrick, you want to explain House Bill 800 to us?
Well, this bill has amendments also. This is the bill that requires DNR to set up a program to develop an app so that you know where you are on the on the bay with your fishing, if you're boating, whatever, and what you can do there. Where's my amendment here? The amendments to this bill suggested by DNR. First of all, they clarify, they move, I don't have the amendments, where'd they go? Well, anyway, I sent them out. They moved the, here it is. The area of the law that it's in to reflect the fact that it doesn't just apply to aquaculture. This is not an aquaculture bill. It applies for aquaculture, for knowing if you're in an oyster sanctuary, if you're in an SAV bed and all of that. And it also takes out the requirement to map clam beds because that's impossible. They're always moving. They're different places every year. And clarifies that some of the fishing equipment that they're supposed to notify is for registered pound net sites.
We've lost Jerry Clark, have we?
Yeah, we gotta find him.
Yeah.
It's his bill.
I had some notes on here about, well, and I think some of the amendments you just talked about. I'm sorry, Patrick. So what do the amendments do?
You're gonna make me pull it up again, are you?
And
There he is. Hey, come on, Jay.
Hey, it lost me. My internet service went out.
Oh, my.
Must not have paid the bill.
Again, this is the mobile application device bill. And the amendments just move the language to a different part of the code to reflect the fact that it's not an aquaculture bill, that it will require the app to identify, not just aquaculture leases, but oyster sanctuaries, shellfish fishery areas, SAV protection zones and the like. And it also changes reference to identifying fixed fishing devices to registered pound net sites, which makes sense. And then eliminates the requirement for the department on this app to map clamming bars, because clamming bars are mobile. They move everywhere. They never know where they are.
Well, James, you could go out and look for them on the weekends. No comment?
Move unfavorable.
He likes
I
his
think that's how
weekends.
they're gonna do it for $134,000, because really James is gonna be doing it.
And James is gonna put it together on the weekends.
Yeah.
Jerry, I was looking at this bill, and I was thinking it's kind of tough for the legislature to tell DNR what's in an app, isn't it?
We gave him an example of it. We gave him a real good example of it, but they're very creative in DNR, and I'm sure that they'll come out with a hell of a lot better app than what Virginia's got. Right, James? We just got to find you the money, right?
And the money.
They can do it under budget.
On time and under budget.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's a great bill, and it'd be really a real asset to everyone in Maryland, both commercial and recreational. I think that we passed a bill a couple of weeks ago about electronic licensing. It's really the wave of the future. And if Virginia can do it, I'm sure we can do a better job. So
it'll also.
I'd like to
I
move it.
saw Delegate Wells actually raise her hand, you guys, so.
I do have a question. I guess it's more of maybe it's a procedural question, but all this would do is take what current information we have in terms of where all the various life exists and put it into an app, or is this asking us to collect new information and put that new information into an app? Like, how is it being documented currently?
It should be with the information and data they already have.
Okay.
And James is shaking.
And the
his
purpose, and I guess this may be a sponsor question, but the purpose of this would help commercial
Yeah,
sector.
not just the commercial sector, but it also helped the recreational fisher and the recreational boaters. And also, for that matter, it should help the DNR police because they all carry cell phones and can pull the app up, and they need to mark a spot other than not marking it on their boat radars and stuff on their boats. I'm sure they have the ability to do that, but it's just a win-win to give everybody the ability to know where they're at, where they're not supposed to be, what's underneath where they're at, where the Yates bars are and the sanctuaries and the oyster culture leases, and keeps them people out of trouble. And if you've got a good crabbing spot on the bay and you want to go back to it again, you can mark it on your phone and in your boat and go back out to the same spot. It's just a win-win.
Will this be able to help me if I was hypothetically out on someone's boat trying to catch rockfish? Would it help me catch more regulation rockfish?
It would find
Yeah,
them.
especially if you were in Solomon.
Okay, all right. I hear you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's hold this one. I've got some observations about it, Jerry. We can talk more.
You got reservations.
I got some reservations, Jerry.
What are they?
Well, like Yates bars.
Uh-huh.
Why would we require DNR to tell us where Yates bars are?
Well, they have the information. What's it take? Just to stick it in there is not a big deal.
Well, like Yates bars are from 1908.
Yeah. Well, I mean, get all the information you can. This is a digital age with information and data.
Yates bars are what you're basing your oyster restoration on.
Off of. Yeah. I mean, it's just if you're not a recreational boater, the app probably wouldn't serve you a whole lot. But especially with the pandemic, I mean, the boating industry is going wild. There's more boaters now than there was even a year and a half ago. And, it's just a common sense thing that we should have. Yeah. I'll show you the app if you want, that Virginia has out there.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, well, I had some in the presentation, and in the notes, there was some slides and stuff in there from that.
Okay, well, let's hold it today, but I hear you. Anybody else on this bill?
Mary has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, who does?
Mary.
Delegate Lehman?
Yeah, Delegate Lehman.
Oh, I cannot see that, by the way, so Delegate Lehman.
I just have a quick question for James. I assume one of the concerns is the cost of building this app. I assume that's one of the issues. So I thought someone asked this question in committee, but I don't recall what the answer was. Is there any way to recover that at all? Is there a way to charge for it, or is that the main issue? And is that permissible for a government agency to charge for what I guess is essentially public information, but you'd be charging, I would assume, for the convenience of it?
Yeah, I don't know that we would go in that direction. Just for customer service reasons, in terms of the overall cost, it's highly probable that we can include this in with our major IT project that is currently underway to replace our online licensing system.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of makes the cost not really an issue, at least not for DNR's budget.
Okay, enough. A quick follow-up question. Are there any concerns with any of the specific information that Delegate Clark is proposing that would be included that you just don't think is necessary to make available, or that would be especially problematic?
Yeah, no, I think there's some amendments in the reprint, that you'll see. Aquaculture enterprise zones don't really exist. And we have a bill in actually to take those out finally. That's making its way over to the House. So,
We have it already, in fact.
yeah,
Okay.
right.
All right. All right, so we'll hold House Bill 800 and work on it some more. Patrick, I know we held, is Melissa still here?
I think she just got up.
I know we held one of your
There
bills.
she is.
Oh, hey, Melissa,
Yes,
if you have to go,
I'm good. They're not on my bill still. There's,
okay, so we'll just keep going through the list.
uh-huh.
Okay, House Bill 458 is the Program Open Space Visitors Bill. I see that, is there any discussion on this bill? Delegate Stein?
Mute. Yeah, I understand the concern about linking these policies to program open space, and I agree with those concerns. I wanted to see if I could hold it for purposes of an amendment, which would just take out the connection to program open space funding. And instead just say that it should be these policies should be part of the LCRP, the local, something in residential plan.
Alex from Mako is on. Alex, are you there?
What was the bill number again? I'm sorry to interrupt.
458.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I think you're referring to the Land Preservation Parks and Recreation Plan, the LPPRP.
Yes.
I think that we would certainly be in favor of removing sort of the really penalty provision here that would tie it to program open space funding.
Okay, so I'll go ahead.
No. It's all you, Dana.
So Alex, if I drafted an amendment, you could take a look at it and let me know if with that change, you'd be okay with the bill?
Yeah, I think yeah, I'd be happy to take a look at that amendment. I think removing the penalty provision and, maybe taking a look at, sort of the different prescriptive policies outlined. I think if it was a general plan that counties had to include in an LPPRP under sort of the guidelines, they're actually under an update right now through DNR. They're doing a 5-year update. I think there is an agreement out there.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Mr. Chairman, I would like to hold it for a week.
All right, let's do that. And you can work with Mako. And I know MML has an interest in it too, but they didn't make it to the hearing. But Mako can probably handle that.
Okay,
All
thank you.
right. So we're holding 458. 831 is the Food System Resiliency Bill. Is there any discussion on this bill?
What did that bill do again? I mean,
Well, you know how our committee, we sort of hold task forces till the end. But
okay.
and this it's the more I looked at it, the more I realized that it's kind of a task force. Kristen, you want to give us a quick overview of it?
Yeah, it's this council must meet for at least 2 years to address food insecurity in the state. And
Okay.
one of those charges is relating to food insecurity resulting from the pandemic.
Okay.
And there's a cross file that's being heard next week in EHE as well.
Thank you.
Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you. There was also in the testimony, Delmarva Chicken Association had an amendment to add them into the council. Has that amendment been produced or was just
that was included in their written testimony.
Yeah.
As far as what Delegate Gilchrist had just mentioned about holding on to the council's task force related bills to until we're closer to crossover. So that we do have that information. There was a couple other folks who wanted to be added to the council that they submitted as part of their testimony. We haven't received like any amendments that are drafted from sponsors, but there's testimony certainly requesting to be added to the council.
All right, so the premise is to hold it till the end and put it on the task force system, whichever ones get selected.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And
All right, thank you.
and I got a little distracted there for a moment, but also the bill calls for the Maryland Emergency Management Association or the University of Maryland College of Agriculture and Natural Resources to provide staff. Did you say that, Kristen?
I didn't mention that, but that's true. MEMA and the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources are jointly responsible for staffing. I did see we didn't hear from either entity in the hearing, but the fiscal note indicated that the College of Ag and Natural Resources indicated that they could staff the task force with existing budgeted resources. And then there was a fiscal note associated with the MEMA part of staffing because they would have to hire somebody to take on those responsibilities. It was, I think, a $93,000 to hire a person to take on that responsibility. And then they also note that although the bill establishes this council for at least 2 years, there's no termination provision. So right now it's drafted, it is a permanent council.
All right. So those two groups we might have to reach out to, but we do have some information apparently from the fiscal note. Thank you. Anything else on 831? Okay, so we'll hold that. Okay, that brings us to House Bill 860, Preservation of Agricultural Land. Oh,
We're gonna, that bill's not good, is it?
there's nothing to say about this bill.
Okay, she found my bank statement I left under there.
Maybe what we should do, Delegate Stein.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to say, I do like this bill.
It'll be Monday before I get by, I'm sure.
My understanding is it basically extends the timeline for achieving the state's goal of preserving ag land to the tune of 1 million plus acres, 1,030,000. I forget the exact number. Since we've made a lot of headway toward that goal, not there yet, but I think it makes sense to say that we should continue our efforts to meet that goal.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
you at Maryland Farm Bureau had a suggested amendment about adding the next gen group in, a next gen farm group in. Have you gotten anything on that?
I saw that suggestion. We haven't heard, Marbidco did put in a letter of information about that. And so I think I see Colby's on it. They have about 3,000 acres, Colby.
Well, the small scale, which is under 50 acres, that Marbidco created with their next gen program, because they're not 50 acres or larger. They don't qualify for like MALF or Rural Legacy or any of the permanent programs.
Nope,
So
never.
Marbidco is actually purchasing development rights. And so my thought is that
No,
we should
get
go
cracked.
ahead and include them in the list.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna have the goal, we might as well include all of them.
Is Marbidco part of Department of Agriculture?
I didn't be able last night.
No, they're a quasi public-private piece, and it's kind of like TEDCO or
Yeah.
Medco. It's the way that government can fund
No, I don't know what it
for-profit
was.
projects without having
Mhm.
they can't do for-profit, so they send them through those types of projects to pay for different things. This one is agriculture and resource-based industry
Mhm.
related.
Do you know how many acres they have? I'm sorry.
That program just started a couple of years ago. I think they've done probably a dozen or so far, projects.
Well, the bill as drafted adds Maryland Environmental Trust to the existing other 4 programs that qualify. And every time that our subcommittee in the interim talks about this, Maryland Environmental Trust is always included. They always say, if you include Maryland Environmental Trust, you have 800,000 acres on your way to 1,030,000. So I'm just sort of on the fence about Marbidco. Jay, do you like the idea of Marbidco, Jay? I don't think Jay heard me. Any oh boy. Okay.
He's stuck on mute, I think.
Hey, Delegate Jacobs.
He's trying to get off.
We don't hear you. Hey, Colby, how important to the Farm Bureau is it?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm sorry. I got fouled up there a little bit. Yeah.
Colby, how important to the Farm Bureau is it to add that?
Well, my thing of it is that, I'm worried that because it's prescribing, I don't know if the existing law or I don't even know if it was really in law before, but it was, we didn't have it prescribed of which ones were to count towards the goal. That my thought is that by having that goal, that keeps a preference on the value of the programs. And so if that was in there, then that would keep a preference on the value of that small, because that's going to be where your urban operations will be able to preserve some of those smaller acreage of land, like in Prince George's County or Baltimore County, more in the central part of the state. You get to the Eastern Shore, finding 50 acres is pretty easy, but when you get into Southern Maryland, and it gets a little more difficult to find those larger swaths of land.
Okay. As a sponsor, I got to say, I hadn't really focused on this, so we better hold it and figure out if we should add that group, because it does make some sense, but I just haven't looked at it. So we'll hold the bill, and I'll look at that. Okay, let's go back to the last bill on our list, House Bill 579. That's snare traps.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Kristen.
I know we've held almost every bill today, so we haven't accomplished what we've wanted to, but I would like to request this bill be held. I don't support it in any case, but I really don't like that it affects my county. People talk about it only being relevant to Caroline, but it does affect, or Cecil, I'm sorry, but it does affect other counties. And I am concerned about the impact on pets and children. And so I don't know if there's any way to fix it. I can't see myself supporting it, but I think there is the potential maybe for an amendment by animal advocates. Excuse me.
Well, the hearing was nearly a month ago, and it is a bill we passed out in this form last year. You want to hold it for a week?
I would like to, yes.
Okay, well, we'll do that. All right, everybody, I think that ends our agenda. Anybody else have an announcement or something for the good of the order? All right, everybody, thank you. And now I think, who's on now? Margie.
All right, sorry.
Okay, okay, we're done. You can,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you still had one more to go. All right.
everybody have a good day.